Daily Beats Productions. Daily Beats Productions. You are listening to Daily Beats. Daily Beats Productions. Daily Beats Productions. You are listening to Daily Beats. Daily Beats Productions. You are listening to Daily Beats. Daily Beats Productions. Daily Beats Productions. You are listening to Daily Beats. Daily Beats Productions. Daily Beats Productions.
What up, YouTube? Welcome to another live stream here at dailybeats.pt. My name is Tiago Duarte, and I will be the host for today's live stream. So I have already a couple of questions here to start, and I will start right away because I have a lot of stuff to do today. But before we start, I would like to ask you to subscribe and activate the notifications so that you know when I upload new videos, and you can follow all the stuff that I do here. It helps out the channel a lot if you leave a like and if you subscribe and activate notifications. And I will be doing these live streams every Saturday at around 6 p.m. GMT +2, which is the Berlin time. And I'm located in Stuttgart. So if you want to see the time difference, just search for 6 p.m. Stuttgart and you will find the time difference. And I also have a link in the description so that you can subscribe to the newsletter where I will be sending forms where you can post your questions, and those questions will have higher priority compared to the ones that are posted here in the chat. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and start with the questions that I have for today. And so one of the questions that I have here, it's from my YouTube channel. It's from a comment, and the question is how to change MIDI time of the MIDI in FL Studio. So there are two things that we have to clarify here. And when you say time of the MIDI, it's actually the global time of the project, because there's two things here that I think it's being misunderstood. So let's jump into FL Studio so that I can show you what I mean. So here in FL Studio, as you can see, we have at the top here, we have the time, the BPMs, and BPM stands for beats per minute. And this defines how fast or how slow your track is. So everything that goes into this, so the project that you have loaded will be synced to this time. So if you want a faster project, you have to increase the BPMs. If you want a slower project, you have to decrease the BPMs. And when you say time of the MIDI, it kind of does not make sense to say it that way, or it's not the right way to define the time of the project. Because as you can see here, I have 140, and all the MIDI that I put here will be played at 140 BPMs. So I can have the same MIDI notes. So let's say that I have these MIDI notes, and if I play this now, there's no sound here. But if there was a sound, it would play at 4 beats at 140 BPM per minute, or BPM, which is beats per minute. And if I slow this down for, let's say, 100, this will play also at every beat. And but the difference is that now we have a different BPM. So you cannot, it's not correct to say to change the time of MIDI, but the time of the project overall. And yeah, so that's what I wanted to clarify, the two differences. One is that time is relative. So when we are talking about MIDI here, we are talking about steps, beats, bars, half steps, half beats, and so on. All these measures that we have here, this is what we are talking about when we talk about MIDI here in the piano roll. But then, if I change the speed or the BPMs of the entire project, you will not see any difference here in the way the BPM is laid, or the MIDI is laid out. The only difference is that it's going to play slower or faster. That's the only difference. But when you want to make your track faster, you have to change the BPMs. If you want to make the track slower, you have to decrease the BPMs. And if you do want to, let's say that you are talking about MIDI, I want to make the MIDI longer or shorter, what you have to do is just move the MIDI around. So like this way, we would have the half the time, because we spaced out the notes. So before it was every step. Let's move this to beat. So before was every beat, now is every 2 beats. And we kept the same time, but we changed the MIDI notes so that it was half the time. If you want faster, what we can do is go, for instance, let's go to 1.5 beats, and we can put it this way. So this way we will have the 4 notes in 2 beats rather than in 4 beats or even 8 beats. So I hope that that difference was clarified, but that's basically how you can change the time is here. There are a couple of options here. If you right click, you can see the tab, and there's a bunch of options here that we can set for ease of use. So let's say that I want to 100 BPMs and I want to go for 140. I can do so very easily without clicking and dragging and dragging up and down to change the BPM. I can go to normal, let's say, because when we open FL Studio, it starts with 140. Let's say that I want to go to 90. I just click here and automatically sets me to 90, and then I can fine tune this as I want. So that's the options here. We also have a tab, and this is very nice. This is where usually I start my beats, and I would go and let's say I have an idea that I have in mind, and I start to play around with some piano or something like that, and then I go and I start tapping to see how fast it is that I'm feeling the vibe of the track, and then I can go here and tap something like that. If I want it faster, this is too fast. So as you can see, and that's basically how I do it. Sometimes it's the best way to do it. So let's say that I want to have, let's say that I'm playing around with some keys and I have some notes here. Something like that. Let's say that I wanted to record that rhythm. What I would do is go here to tab, dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Something like that, and I can see this 140. I mean, I'm not sure if 140 would match what I was looking for, but then I can go ahead and start playing around with the rhythm that I had in mind, and get an idea of what was the BPM that I was thinking of. So that's a good way to set the tempo of your track without having to guess or try to match the tempo. You just tap it with your mouse and with your finger, and you have a good idea of the BPMs that you wanted. So I think that's it for this question. Let's go back here. So yeah, sometimes it's a little bit hard to understand what you guys write in the comments. So my suggestion is to always proof your sentences in Google Translator. It really helps a lot. And yeah, I mean, try to explain as best as you can, because sometimes it's a little bit misleading, and I have to kind of guess what you are thinking of, and that might not be the correct way. Okay, so let's jump to the next one. And this is a question that I also had from my YouTube comments. And this one is a big one, I think, because a few years or a few months back, I did some FL Studio tutorials on how to set the TD3 in FL Studio. And now I had a question on how to configure TD3 with Studio One. And it's actually, it's simpler than FL Studio. So let me show you how to do that in Studio One. So let's jump to Studio One. And so the first thing that I have is I have here my TD3 connected to channel 2. And if I go ahead and start playing something, you see that you can hear, wait a second, let me just stop this, because it has, because the way I have my setup here, you will hear it alongside with my mic. So what happens here is that if I hit play, nothing happens. As you can see, there's no information from FL Studio directly to TD3. But if I hit play on my TD3, you see that now I have some audio, and I can change the preset. I can make it faster. I can make it slower. I can change the pitch. Okay, I can change some of the parameters. Okay, as you can see, this is just stuff that I'm messing around with the TD3, with the knobs in the TD3. But let's say that I want to now configure Studio One so that every time that I play in Studio One, instead of me going to hit play on the TD3, Studio One automatically sends MIDI clock information to the TD3. And that's easy to do. So we go here to Options, and we go to External Devices. So we have to add one. And if we go here, we see that this is from Behringer, but we don't have any option here for TD3. What we can do is go here to, we have new keyboard, new instrument, or new control surface. So a new keyboard is pretty much, it's self-explanatory. This is kind of a keyboard that you have keys that you can play with. This is kind of like a plug-and-play keyboard. Then we have new instrument, which is what we want. And then we have a surface controller. And the surface control or control surface, it's something that you have knobs, faders. It's kind of like a mixer, but with MIDI, so that you can connect your mixer to a surface controller. I don't want to talk too much about it. So let's talk about this one here. And let's call this TD3. TD3R3, I think that's the name. No, TD3. Let's do TD3. Okay. And then we have these options here, which is receive from and send to. Since I have a Focusrite audio interface connected to the TD3, what this connection is basically two connections. So I have the output of MIDI from my Focusrite USB interface going from there, the output, MIDI output, connected into the MIDI input of TD3. And then I have the audio output of TD3 going into my audio input of the Focusrite. So I hope that was clear. And what we can do is send MIDI information. So we have here send to, and we are going to send MIDI information through the Focusrite USB MIDI. And when I click that, we can send MIDI clock, use MIDI clock start, send MIDI timecode. I think it's enough to select send MIDI clock. And that's pretty much it. And you click OK. And you click OK here. So what next? Next, we have to do something else here. And there's an option or a tool from Behringer that I don't like that much, but it's the only tool that we have. And it's called this Behringer Synth tool version 2.0. If I do here, get started, it says it can't be used. Please close other DAW. This is the problem that I have sometimes with FL Studio. So I have to close FL Studio so that I can use this app. And as you can see now, we have the app working. And if we go here to General, we will see Clock Source. And I have to go here and select, I don't know why, it's showing me, okay, now. We have internal, MIDI D-in, MIDI USB, and trigger. What we want is MIDI D-in. Why? Because we selected I connected a cable from the MIDI output of the Focusrite into the MIDI input of TD3. And that's why. If I had this over USB, I would use USB, but I prefer to use this MIDI D-in. So let's select this. We can now close this tool. We can also use the sequencer, and we can calibrate and stuff like that, and even update the firmware, which is already up to date. Let's see the sequencer here. I can place notes, store stuff, recall. So this is a cool tool in that sense. Doesn't work that well, but it is what it is. Now, let's see. If I now play something, and if I hit play on my keyboard, or on the TD3, you now hear some noise. And if I start speeding up this, you see that now it's speeding up. So now Studio One is controlling or sending clock information to the Focusrite, and the Focusrite is sending clock information to the to TD3. So Studio One is now controlling TD3, and I have to go here. Let's see, input. Let's do that, and we can record this. So let's record something, and as you can see, now we have data coming from TD3, and this is synced to my time. So this is now controlled by TD3, or by Studio One, sorry. So if I now play this, let's take this one here, and let maybe close that. So now I have two things playing at the same time. Okay, so now I just disabled TD3. And now the audio is coming from TD3, or Studio One, actually. This was a little bit confusing, but yeah, that's basically it, how you can configure Studio One to have to connect to TD3. It's a little bit what's the word that I'm looking for? It's might not be the best way, because now let's put this in a little bit faster. And you can see also here the MIDI control. So if I click here and if I hit play, you now start to see the MIDI clock messages. And as you can see, let me pause, and we can see that this is going out, Focusrite USB MIDI. So, and this is probably the position, not the position, but the MIDI messages that you can check here. If you want to go a little bit deeper, you can check the MIDI messages that Studio One is sending to TD3 through your audio interface. And that's basically just that. You go to options, and you create a device, you set the clock so that Focusrite or Studio One sends the clock to your audio interface that is connected to the TD3. That's the way I have it. So let me remove that. That's the way I have it, set it up, and I hope that also answers the question. So let's go here to the next question. And I'm going a little bit faster today because, as I told you, I have stuff to do afterwards. So I'm sorry for that. And the next question is a good one. Is how to get live drum feel, or how to get that live drum feel that sometimes we have in our tracks. And let's go to FL Studio. And the way I like to do this, as you can see, let me open FPC, and let's open here a kit, maybe this one. And we have snare, kick, hi-hat. So let's do a drum loop with these ones. Just a simple thing, so just to show. Let's use this one. Let's use a hi-hat. Okay, let's put this maybe at 194. That should be enough. And now okay, so now FL Studio is also sending clock information to TD3. So I have to now lower the volume of TD3. Sorry for that. So we have this drum loop. Doesn't sound very live, or you can tell by this drum loop that this is kind of like electronic drum loop. It doesn't have that vibe of live drums. The way I like to do this is with actually just hi-hats. So what I do is most of the times I keep the kick and the snare, you know, and then I go and I choose, and this is the key or the tip that I would like to say, is to choose a plugin that gives you some live drum kits. So one of them that I like to use is Strike. There's also here Structure. It's a really cool plugin. And there's also this one, Addictive Drums too. So let's open this one actually. It's one of my favorites. And if I open this, we have a bunch of kits here. And I think I'm going to, I don't know if I can use these ones. Actually, okay, I think I can only use these two, at least for the free version. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. So as you can see, this is highlighting this hi-hat, and this is what I like to do to get some really cool drum feeling. So what I will do is put this here, go to a new pattern, extend this pattern here, and start programming my drums or the hi-hats in this way. So let's do something like that. Let's listen to everything. And we could also add maybe to the snare. And maybe the kick also. So as you can see, we have now the electronic drums supporting the battery sound. You see the difference there? So let's copy all of these and maybe do some variation here at the end to make it a little bit more interesting. I like to use these open hi-hats. Let's see if this sounds good. As you can see, maybe, let's see there. Maybe not, maybe here. Let's try these ones. Okay, something like this. So now we are getting a different vibe, the live drum vibe or feel. And that's basically it. You just add a plugin or an instrument that kind of gives you some live drums stuff, and then you just mostly mimic your drum loop. As you can see, I just created the same pattern that I did for the electronic drums here, and I replicate it for the drums, for the kick and snare, and then for the hi-hat I just use something like this to give me that really cool vibe. Another thing that you can do is select, for instance, the hi-hats and start doing some different variations here in the volume to mimic what actual drummer would do, because it's impossible that the drummer will play for the entire loop the same velocity. So there's always variation when it comes to natural playing, and you will never get the same velocity or the same pressure playing the hi-hats or the drum or the snare, for that matter. So we can kind of simulate that human vibe by changing the volume. Another nice way to do that is to call this randomizer. And I don't like to have the pattern, because if I do the pattern, you see that messes up the pattern. So I disable the pattern and I just play around with the levels here. So as you can see, we have velocity. We can also play with the panning, but some plugins will not play well with the panning. But you can change the velocity here, and you see that already gave me a different volume for the or velocity for the notes. I can change the seed, as you can see, and I can also change if I want bipolar. Bipolar means that it will go both up and down in terms of the reference. So let's see. You can see that also goes a little bit up and also down. So this can be a more dramatic effect. If you don't want that much variation, as you can see, what you can do is just add a bipolar or remove bipolar and just do some minor or less intensive variation, something like that. Let's accept this. It might not be a big difference. You might think, that's not too much, but it will make a difference. Now let's remove the electronic drums. You see that now the kick and the snare lost a little bit of energy. That's why I like to combine electronic drums like a kit from my kits or just samples. I like to combine those with the actual drum loop, because that gives me the power of the electronic drums and the vibe of the live drum set or the drum set. Another thing that we can do is also add some swing to give a little bit more feeling to the, or swing to the track. We might not listen too much because we don't have, we have to go to step, and maybe we could add something like that. Maybe one this here. Let's go from the start. That one sounded nice. Let's add another one here. Maybe another one here. You see, now we are getting, maybe not this one. Now we are getting a little bit a different vibe, a more live vibe. And I really like this part. And now it would be just a matter of adding more sounds. For instance, a crash. We have crashes here. Maybe a crash here. A little bit less volume. Maybe some toms. Let's see if I have toms here. I don't know if they have toms or if this kit has toms. Maybe not. Let me see. No, the toms are disabled in this one. Let me see this one. No. So as you can see, this is the free version, so it has some limitations. This one is very large. But I like this one here, and then you can also change, for instance, the overhead and the room mics. So this kind of lost a little bit of that vibe. So we can have different feelings for the things. So let's take the overheads and let's add some room mics. So now we are getting that drum vibe. Let's add a little bit of overheads to get the hi-hats a little bit more intensive. Okay, and I think that's it. So these are some of the tools that I like to use when I'm trying to get that drum vibe, that drum feel, that drum feeling of live drums. This is usually, actually I don't use this plugin too much, the Addictive Drums 2, but there's the plugin, one of the plugins that I use a lot, I can show you, is this one here, Structure, which is basically the same, is a sampled bass plugin. And I have here some drums. Let's go to acoustic. And as you can see, I have a bunch of plugins or presets here. Sorry, my English today is not that great. So let's use this one, the vintage one. And as you can see, after loading, I have toms. and I also have drums, and then I have the hi-hats, and also the kick and snare. So this is a plugin that I really like to use, structure when I want that drum set vibe or feeling. I don't know if that's the correct word, but yeah, I think as you can hear, sounds really cool, sounds dope. It has some really cool effects. So I really recommend this Addictive Drums 2, and there's a free version for it. It doesn't have too much, but if you are starting out, this could be a really cool plugin for you to start out and start to get some really cool, dope live drums in your beats. Okay, so we have here a comment. Hi from Jean Cloud Hippolyte. I guess that's how you pronounce it. Hi, welcome to the live stream. If you have any questions about music production, just leave them in the chat and I will try to help. So let's go to the next question, which is a nice question, but it's not so easy to demonstrate in like 5 or 10 minutes, which is how to make good melodies. So this is a question that I have, that I get repeatedly. People always want to know how to get good melodies, how to make really nice and dope beats and melodies that catch the ear. And there's no rule, there's no secret about it. You have to make music, and you have to practice. It's just that simple. To make good melodies, you have to first make bad melodies, and you have to make constantly music and start improving your melody skills. And you have to also listen to a lot of music, and it's not maybe not the answer that you guys are looking for, but it comes with experience. For instance, my first beats when I started this YouTube channel, they were really, really bad. They didn't sound that great. Not really, really bad, but they didn't sound that great. And nowadays, I feel that my productions became way, way better. And I have more melody making skills, if that's a correct word. And I think it comes with experience. It comes with practicing. You will not get, if you are starting out with music or with DAWs, you will not get good melodies right off the bat, unless you are like a musical genius, which it could happen, but for me it didn't happen. I had to work on it, and I had to really practice a lot to get good melodies. I had to learn also how to make good music, how to make production, how to mix, how to master, all those technical stuffs. I have to learn music theory. That's an important part of making good melodies. But I want to keep you some tips that I have when I want to make good melodies. And one of the tips that I usually follow when I'm making a beat is I try to hum or try to sing melodies. And what I usually do, I connect this microphone and then I record my own melodies with my voice. So let's say that I have a melody, something like dun 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 dun, something like that. I would record this in Edison, bring this into the playlist, and then try to mimic the same notes. And then what I would do, I would recreate the rhythm and then change the notes. It's a very simple process. It takes it's not the most if you don't have too much piano skills, it's not the easiest. How can I say? If you don't have piano skills, it's a little bit boring to do. It takes a little bit of time recording your vocals and then maybe putting the vocals correctly into the grid and then having to create the notes. But it's really, really worth doing it after, because you are basically just translating your music ideas into actual MIDI into FL Studio. And that's really the best way that I can think of to make good melodies. And one thing that you can also do is listen to music, get some inspiration, try to find music that you like, listen to them, and try to sing along. And then if you have a nice idea of a song, you can just go and do repeat that process. If you are good at playing piano or something like that, you can just go ahead and play the notes in that you are thinking of. You can play them in the piano. But if you don't have piano skills yet, what you can do is just hum the melody, record that melody into audio, and then export that audio into the playlist in FL Studio or in any other DAW, and then try to replicate the melody. It's that simple. And let me tell you, whenever I do that, I get some really, really crazy melodies that I really, really enjoy. So that would be my tip on how to make good melodies. That would be my second tip. The first tip is just make music, make music, make music. You have to make a lot of music to get better at making melodies and getting melodies correctly. So it's not as easy as it sounds, but it's not as hard as it sounds also. So there's always a balance here. But I think that thing of recording your own vocal or melodies humming, it's a really, really cool tip that I use a lot in my productions. And sometimes I want to record something and I don't know how to do it in the keyboard, or I don't have the advanced skills of a keyboard player. So I just hum, record it. Takes a little bit of time, but it's well worth it. And that's a nice tip that I can give you. Okay. So I hope that answered that question. And then I have here another question, which is how to properly EQ drums. So this one, I'm going to show you a song that I mixed yesterday, actually. And I'm going to show you the before and after so that you can have an idea of what I did here. And I don't think I can. Just a moment, I have to set up this because I just, maybe I can show you another one. Let me see. Okay, this one here. Let me switch to Studio One. So this track, I just published it last Monday. Yes, so let's just listen maybe this part here. So as you can see, it has a bunch of plugins. So let's see the before. Ooh, okay, what's going on here? Where are my buttons? Let's disable everything. You see the difference? Doesn't sound bad, not mixed, but with the mixing it just sounds more open, more bright, or everything is balanced. So let's see what I did for the drums. So let's hear the drums here. I would like to show you another one because the other one had specific things for the drums. What I usually like to do is I don't mix drums individually or the instruments of the drums individually. What I like to do is create a bus, and then I call this bus the drum bus. And if I hit play, you see I have the entire drums going into the one single track, and then I can mix in that track. Why I do this? I do it because it helps to, because the kick, the hi-hats, the clap, and the snare in this case, it's just part of one instrument, and that instrument is the drums. So I don't want to go inside every single track and mix every single track. What I like to do is I go I route everything to a single track, and I treat it as, let's say, as a bass or as a piano. I treat it as one instrument only, and that's why I like to do it this way. It also helps me to save some time. So let's see what I did here for this EQ. And as you can see, there's not too much that I did here. Why? Because it's all about balancing, or how can I say? When I'm mixing drums, if they are electronic drums like this one is, there's not too much live drums or a live recording. So there's usually not that much that I need to do in my drums because they are already cool or they sound already good. I might remove some of the wonkiness that it has here. So let's listen to this part here to see what I just removed. So as you can see, that sound there, I didn't like it, so I just remove it. And the same for this one. I didn't like that too much, so I just removed it. But as you can see, it's not a very aggressive EQing. Sometimes, or most of the times, I don't even do too much EQing on the drums, because if they are electronic drums coming from kits or stuff like that I buy on the internet, or I make my own kits, usually they sound really cool already, and you don't need to do too much stuff to that to make the drums sound great. So I usually apply some EQ to cut some of the frequencies that I don't want, and then I apply some compression. And as you can see here in the compression, we have a little bit more compression. It's around -3 dB. And what I did was a fast attack, kind of also slowest release. I mean, this could go up to 2000, I think, 5000. So 200 is not that slow. It's kind of like a fast release also compared with the range, but compared with the attack is a faster attack, a faster release, sorry. And then I do a ratio of 4:1. And then it's just a matter of decreasing here the threshold until I get some compression. And because these are electronic drums, I don't need to do a lot of compression. If they were drums from a recording, from a band recording, then I would have to do a little bit more work, maybe to EQ and to make the drums sound a little bit better. But usually when it comes to electronic drums, they sound good already, or they are made to sound good. At least the ones that I do in my sample packs, I made them so that they sound good already and they are mixed. So sometimes there's not too much to do when it comes to drums. And that's pretty much it, what I do here for drums. It's not rock science. Sometimes I do add some distortion. So if I go here, I like to use this Camel Crusher. It's a really cool plugin, and I have other tutorials to how to make drums sound punchier. So let's do that. Let's listen to this one. What I like to do is apply a little bit of tube distortion, maybe a little bit of this one here, maybe around 3%, as you can see. And then we can apply some compression. Okay, let's see the before and after levels. It's always important to check the levels before and after, because then you can really see what is going on with your sound. As you can see, now we are adding volume, and that's not what I want. So let me reduce the volume a little bit. So now it's a little bit more in line, so maybe just a touch more. Okay, I think that's good. Let's see now the before and after. So this is a really cool tool that I like to use. Some distortion to make them more aggressive. So let's see now the before and after. The drums have a little bit more harmonics and more distortion, and it cuts it way better through the headphones, and that also helps in the entire mix. So let's listen to them and let's see the before and after of the entire mix. So this also helps because this beat is a little bit more aggressive, and it adds a little bit of distortion to the bass, makes it also a little bit more aggressive. That's why I really like it. So I think that's it for this question, and that would be my my way to do properly EQ. It all depends on the drums that you are EQing, but on a regular or general bass, that's what I like to do. I like to take my drums, put them all into a single channel, and then just EQ and or apply effects to that single channel. That's the way I like to do it. And then if I found some frequencies that I don't like, I just cut them. And I try to make the drums sound better with that. And also it's very important to do gain staging. If you don't know what gain staging, just look on some of my tutorials. I have a lot of tutorials explaining how to do top-down mixing and what is gain staging. So let's go to the last question. And the last question is, what is Fruity Stereo Enhancer and what does it do to your sounds? So this is a really cool question. And let's go jump directly into FL Studio. So let me see what I can do. I would like to get a mono sound. Let's see. What can I do here? Maybe let's do some loops. Let's use a classic drum loop from FL Studio. Let's put this at 90 BPMs. Let's maybe lower the volume because this is very loud. Okay, so let's put this on track 1 and let's make this mono. So now the drum loop sounds mono. Let's bring Stereo Enhancer, and now let's bring also a tool to monitor what we are doing or what is happening in the audio. So we have now Fruity Stereo Enhancer, and we also have the analyzer here, pass analyzer from Waves. You could use any other analyzer here, but if I now play, you see that we have here a very mono signal. And if we look at this, we have left and right in this spectrum analyzer. Or I don't know if this spectrum analyzer, if that's the correct word. Let me see, by the way. Let's see, I might have meter, stereo, position, maybe this position. Yeah, the position stuff here. But let's use this one because it has more stuff there. Okay. So let's focus here on the position meter. And as you can see, we have left, right. And if our sound just gives us a line here in the center, means that we have mono. So there's no left and right signal. There's just mono signal. And if we go to the mixer and if we start playing around with the panning, we see now that we only have signal now on the left. If I clear this and I put it on the right, we only have signal now on the right. So this gives us an indication of where, in terms of balance, we have our signal. So now if I play, we have this mono. Let's now try to see what's happening here. We have the stereo separator. And as we can see here, if we go to this side, we have a minus. If we go to this side, we have a plus, meaning that if we go here, we are 100% merged, meaning that we are in mono. If we go here, we are 100% separated, means that this is adding some stereo effect to the signal. Then we have here the phase offset, and this gives us some phase to the right or phase to the left in milliseconds. We have here some options that we can set none, the invert, so we can invert the phases of the left and right. And then, of course, we have panning and volume. So it's very simple in terms of the knobs that we have here. But let's start here with the stereo separation. So if our signal is already mono, so if we put this right away to the right, there's no change. But if we start now going from here to positive, we start to get some, let me see what's going on. This should give me some stereo separation. Here, that's strange. It should give me some stereo separation. This should give some, okay, so let me see if I can explain what's going on. Let's put this in stereo. Okay, I think I know what's going on now. So let's put this back in mono. So what's going on here is that this stereo separation just adds some delay between the signal, meaning that it will play the left and right channel with some delay. And because we have this delay, it is going to create some kind of stereo effect. It's going to separate the starting point of the channels, or the two channels, and it's going to give some stereo field effect. I think that's the best way to put it. But what's happening here is our source is mono, so our source does not have stereo signal. So what's going on is that is taking because is moving or giving some delay between the two channels. What's going on is it's creating some phasing effect into the channels. And because we are starting the channel a little bit further, let's say the right channel a little bit further than the left channel, what's going to happen is that the signal will will start to attenuate, because the phases are different. And instead of, it could also sum, but most of the time it will subtract. And this is what we get when we have stereo separation here. When we apply stereo separation, when we start to merge or separate the channels, the signal becomes weaker. As you can see, it's a little bit less volume. Here it is louder, here it's softer. And that's what's going on. So it's giving some stereo separation, or it's applying some delay between the two channels. And that's why we start to see less volume in the mono signal, because the mono signal has the same information on both channels, but they are separated in terms of milliseconds. And this creates some phasing effect, which decreases the volume. If we now look at this phase offset here, so let's play around with the phase offset. And when we start to get some phase offset, we get already some stereo separation here. And you can see that now we have some signal going to the left, going to the mono, and also going to the right. And we also have some anti-phase section here. And this is how you can create some stereo effects with this. You can either separate them or apply some phase offset. And phase offset basically means that the channels will not start in the same position. They will start in different positions, but at the same time. And that's basically what is happening here. And what's going on here is that sometimes we hear more to the left and more to the right. Is one of the consequences of changing the phase offset here. So if you want it a very small, let's say 1 millisecond, we have now already some stereo separation or some stereo signal, and then we can now make it mono again or add some stereo separation even further. We could use pre, and now it's way more. So this pre and post will determine if this will be before the stereo separation or after. So as you can see now, it applies. If I put mono, we have the signal back at mono again, or kind of mono. And then we can even apply some more stereo separation, and we can really change and shape our sound. Then we have here the invert. So if we invert the phase of one, it will sound really, really strange. And we can now see that our phase or anti-phase here, it's going way crazier than before. And this is not something that you want in your tracks. You want a minimum anti-phase here, because this will not sound good in mono speakers, and it will attenuate your signal. So you don't want that in your tracks, or you want to avoid this anti-phase too much. It will always be there, but if you can avoid it, that's the better. and you can see that whenever the more phase offset we add, the more we get in terms of anti-phase, you know. So this is not the best way to do to get, not how can I say, this is not the best thing to get the anti-phase. So you want to minimize the anti-phase, and yeah, that's pretty much it. What else can I talk about this plugin here? It's a very simple plugin that allows you to give some stereo enhancements, enhance your stereo field, but you also have to be careful with it, because you don't want to overdo it, because this can really damage your tracks and really ruin the way they sound. And I think that's it. Let's go back here. Yeah, guys, so I'm going to finish for today. We went over 6 questions. It was a little bit fast today because I have some place to go afterwards, but so I wanted to speed this up. So it was nice to have you joining the live stream. I will be doing these live streams every Saturday at around 6 p.m. GMT +2, which is the Berlin time. So if you want to join the next live stream, you know now when it's going to happen. I also have a link in the description where you can subscribe to the newsletter, where I send you forms where you can post your questions about music production, so that in the next live stream I can answer your questions here live with a video, so that I can help you speed up your learning process, so that you become a better producer faster and your songs become better and better every day. So that's the main goal of these live streams, is to help you guys get better at music production. And for your feedback, I think this is a good thing, and I'm going to keep going and keep providing some of that value. So I think that's it for today. Again, if you want your questions answered, please subscribe to the newsletter. I will not be sending any product information. It will be just information about the live streams. So no selling stuff there. And you can post your questions. And I think that's it. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being part of the live stream. And I wish you a nice weekend, or the rest of a nice weekend. And yeah, that's it. I have here a comment from Jean. Thanks. Thank you for joining. Thank you for staying around. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.